and welcome to episode 95 of the Noble Character Crafts podcast. My name is Amy, and I am coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Monday, June 15th, 2020. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This is a podcast all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts, and you can get in contact with me through my email at noblecharactercrafts@yahoo.com. I will have links to the places that you can find me, as well as the show notes for this episode, in the description box below. I am currently hosting a make-along over on Instagram, which is called Make 9 2020 Mal, and that is for you to join in on the Make 9 challenge, where you choose 9 projects that you would like to make within the year 2020, and you can post a grid on Instagram showing us those projects, and then anytime that you work on them, if you post a picture showing your progress or showing a finished object, please include the hashtag Make92020Mal to be included for any of the giveaways that I will be choosing throughout the year. This is a year-long knit-along or make-along. All crafts are included, so you can have a combination of a variety of crafts that is welcomed and encouraged. And you can also include WIP, so if you have any outstanding projects that you would like to finish up in the year 2020, that is certainly welcome to join in on this make-along as well. So if you haven't joined in yet, please don't hesitate to continue to post a grid showing the things that you would like to make. There is no requirement for you to finish everything on your list, or to even to finish anything, really. It's just for us to be able to show what projects we would like to make this year, and then to show any progress that we're making on them along the way. So I would love to see what projects you would like to make this year. If you would like to join in, that would be amazing. I was able to finish another project from my Make 9 list, which I'm so excited about. This is the second project that I've been able to finish from my Make 9 list, which isn't very impressive in that it's already June. But I did make 2 Make 9 lists. I made one list for my personal projects, and then I also made a second list for gift knits that I wanted to make this year. And I have completed more off of the gift knit list than I have off of my own personal list. So anyway, I'm hoping to focus on my personal Make 9 list a little bit more in the next few months. This is the second project that I've completed from my list, and this is the Friendship Mitten. It is a pattern by Snowy Woods Knits, and I knit these using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport. The 2 colors I use, the main color is Merlot Heather, and then the pink color is called Blossom Heather. I knit these using the recommended needle size, which was a US 2.75 millimeter needle, and I use that for the entirety of the mitten. It is knit from the cuff. Start with the cuff and knit up, and the color work was really fun to do, although I did have to modify it quite a bit. After the snowflake, the pattern starts to, well, actually midway through the snowflake, the pattern starts to decrease. And that was going to be way too short for my hand, so I had to add this heart pattern, which I borrowed from the Julkeveld mitten pattern by Skein Deer Knits. I had knit those mittens last year, and so I had thought that that heart pattern would look really nice at the top of this mitten as well. And so I just added that on, and then had to modify, you know, when I started the decreases. I needed to add an extra 4 centimeters to the length of these. So I also accidentally made a modification on the thumb gusset. There was supposed to be some color work, kind of like stripes, in the bottom section of this thumb gusset, and I just completely made a mistake when I made the first one. I didn't notice that I was supposed to, I was just following the chart for the actual mitten, the hand part. And I should have looked at the thumb chart for the color work for this part, but I think it's fine. I've, matched both gloves. So I forgot to mention that I did need to add a little bit of extra length to the thumb as well. I just needed to add an extra 4 rows, so that was super easy to add in. I just ended up putting in this little heart at the top of the tree. I must have had some row gauge differentiation between the main pattern, because I've never had that problem before with a glove or a mitten where I've needed to add length. My hands are pretty long, but I must have just had a little bit of a gauge differentiation from the main pattern, but it was easy to modify, so I'm super happy with how they turned out. Last time I recorded, I was just about done with this first mitten, and so I was able to do the second one. I added another modification to the thumb on the second one. I made a little bit of a hole in this one on purpose so that I can flip that over and I can use that to run electronic devices, you know, my iPad or my phone. When I'm outside, a lot of times I've mentioned before, I use my iPad to record videos when I'm outside, and so in the winter time I have to take my gloves off in order to use my iPad, and so I thought that would be handy to just have a little thumb hole so that I can access, you know, I can use my thumb to, you know, change things on my iPad or operate my iPad. So I just bound off 7 stitches, and then when I cast on the next row, I cast on 5 stitches because I was already at the point where I needed to start decreasing for the thumb. So anyway, that worked out well. It looks a little funny, doesn't it? But it works. I'm happy with it, and it doesn't, I don't think it will be too, you know, annoying to have that little hole there. I hope not. But I thought it would be really convenient because that is a problem. Like I said, when I'm recording in the winter, I have to take my glove off or my mitten off in order to record. So I think that will be really handy to have. Anyway, I'm super happy with the fit of them. They turned out really well. Blocking with color work is just makes such a huge difference. Especially on the second mitten, when I finished it, it seemed so extremely tight. And I was like, how in the world did my gauge change so much? But once I blocked it, it was great. So for mittens, what I do, I don't have a mitten blocker. There are some out there, but I don't have one. What I do is I just soak it for, you know, 20 minutes or so, and then I lay it flat to dry. Well, first, actually, after I get done, right after I get done soaking it, I, you know, put it in a towel and stomp on it to get all the water out of it. And then I just put it on my hand, soaking wet. You know, it's not soaking wet, it's been patted dry, but it's pretty wet, of course. And I put it on my hand to kind of stretch it out to my hand shape. And then I lay it flat to dry, and every once in a while, I don't know, maybe a couple times a day. I mean, it takes about 24 hours for the mitten to dry. So probably, I would guess 3 or 4 times periodically through that drying process, I'll just try it on again and make sure that it's still kind of formed to my hand nicely. And that seems to work really well for me. So it seems to keep it shaped. Anyway, when I finished the second one, I put it up against the first one because I had already blocked the first one. And it was so much smaller, and I thought, oh no, but they blocked out to be matching, so that's great. Anyway, I'm really happy with these, and these will be going in storage. I, of course, do not need them right now, so they'll be ready and waiting for me come winter, so I'm super excited to have those done. Okay, on to my works in progress. My first work in progress, I have one of the socks that I was making completed. This is the Diamondback socks, which is a beautiful pattern by Mitten of Crazy Sock Lady Designs. And this adorable little strawberry progress keeper is from Million Dots. It came as a stitch marker, and I just put it on a clasp because that's what I use more often. And so anyway, that is showing you where I was last time I recorded. These are knit from the cuff down. I modified the pattern in that I did a 1x1 rib for the cuff because I am making these for Kay's Summer Sock Camp 2020. She is hosting a summer sock camp where she has posted on YouTube 3 tutorials that show you how to make socks using 3 different methods: DPNs, magic loop method, or 9-inch circulars. And I knit these. These are the first socks I've ever knitted using DPN, so double pointed needles. And the sock tutorial that she has for double pointed needles uses a 1x1 rib. So I had already started the cuff and then decided to use one of her patterns for this sock, which I really, really enjoyed. I guess it's a little bit difficult to see the pattern with this variegated yarn, but I think that's a pretty good representation here on the main foot area. You can see that diamond pattern forming. This is also the first time I've ever used a sock blank to make anything, but this is the first. I've never had a sock blank before. This is the only one I've ever had, and I really am enjoying using it. I followed the pattern completely. I did not make any modifications other than the rib. but I did do a 1x1 rib for 20 rows and then started the pattern. I forgot to mention that I did add something to this, a modification to this pattern that I am excited to try out. Whenever I get a hole in my socks, it's always on the ball of my foot. And so I've decided to add a little slip stitch reinforced sole. I don't know how that works, that a slip stitch is more reinforced than than stockinette stitch, but that's what you do for the heel flap, right? Is just give it some reinforcement. So anyway, I'm trying it. I did look online to see if there was anybody else that had ever done a slip stitch sole, anything on the sole, and I found one lady that had done a slip stitch detail for the entire foot of the sock. But I really only have a problem on the ball of my foot, and so I just added a few extra rows. So you can see I started right here, just on the ball of my foot before I started the toe decreases. I did a few rows of that slip stitch detail. I believe it was about 30 rows, I think. That doesn't seem like that many, but I think it was about 30 rows if I remember correctly. I'm hopeful that that will help these socks to wear a little bit longer. So I will try to remember to keep you updated in the future how that works out for me. It's a really long pattern repeat, so I do have to keep an eye on the pattern and keep track of what row I'm on. I believe it's a 24 row repeat for this pattern, but it's really so much fun, and I really think that the pattern is beautiful on here. So the sock blank I used is from Hand Dyed by Kate, and it is in the colorway Abby or Abby. It's spelled A-B-I, and I really, really love the effect of these. I have not wet blocked these yet, so the texture is still a little bit bumpy from being knit from a sock blank, but I really enjoy it. So there's 4 repeats of the pattern for the leg, which I love because it's a nice long sock or leg length, which I like. It has a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and then a rounded toe. And Kay's patterns are just my favorite, so I highly recommend her patterns anyway, but I thought it was very fitting to use one of her patterns for her summer sock camp knit along. And in this cute bag, which was gifted to me through a swap from Allison, and also the sock blank was also from Allison. And I forgot to mention last time, I'm so sorry I forgot to mention that even the pattern is a gift from Nicole. So thanks again, Nicole, for this beautiful pattern that you gifted to me. I was so happy to use it for these socks. And I have started the second one. So I've got the cuff done, and I've done 1 repeat of the pattern. So I'm really liking these. I think it's so fun how they're not going to be, obviously they're not going to be a perfect match, but I think I really love the looks of it. I think they'll be great. Do you hear that? One of my sons just said, "I'm telling Mom." I hate that. I hate that. I hate tattling, and they know that. My rule is you don't tattle. You talk to the person about their problem. It's a good lifelong lesson. You need to talk to them about the problem first. Even when I was working, I used to be the executive director of an assisted living facility, and many times people would come to me with complaints, and I would say, "Have you spoken to that person about that yet?" It's the same philosophy. It's like tattling. So if you have children, I would advise you to encourage them not to tattle on one another, but to try to deal with the problem one-on-one. So I say, go talk to that person with kindness. Ask them to please not do what they're doing. And if you still have a problem, then you can come ask me for help and say, so-and-so is doing such and such. I talked to them about it. They are still not listening to me, and they're still doing that. And then I'll intervene. But maybe that's the case, but usually it's not. Even though over and over again I tell them not to tattle, it's just their immediate instinct is just, I'm gonna tell Mom. But nobody's coming in, so maybe they're dealing with it. We'll see. Okay, my next work in progress is in this beautiful bag that I got in another swap that I did with Mary Ann of Rock Islander. I love this bag so much. It's in my favorite colors, and so and it was especially made for me by her, so that's so special. In here is another project from my personal Make 9 list that I'm so excited to be working on. This is the Outline Shawl, which is a free pattern by Beata Jezek, who is the dyer behind Hedgehog Fibers. And I am using just a ton of scrap yarn for this project, and I'm loving it. I am holding, so it's all fingering weight yarn, and I'm holding it double with a lace weight silk mohair blend that is just undyed. So here is the beginning, and my idea was to sort my scraps into color families and then do a kind of a gradient rainbow of colors. But after I got done with my pinks and reds, I realized that it was going to be way too long if I included all of the scraps that I had put aside for this project. So I started weeding out the rest of my colors and really narrowing down how many colors of each color family I was going to be putting in. So this was my last color from the pink red family, and that's pretty much where I was last time I recorded. There's a progress keeper marking where I was. I had just started into the orange family, so I only had a few of those, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is kind of getting into the yellows, more goldish colors. I have about 5 of those, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess. But this one row here is pretty thin. And now I've just started into the greens. And from now on, I've just weeded it down so that I only have 5 little scraps, which are 10 grams or less for each color. Anyway, I only have 5 for each. I have 5 of green, and then I have 5 that are kind of in a teal, turquoisey, blue colors, and then 5 that are purpley. So I don't have too much further to go, really. I mean, I only have 13 more little balls to add in. So the end is in sight, and I think it's going to be a good length, I think. I'm comparing it to the wrap that I made by Joji Locatelli, the starting point wrap, because it is the exact same width. And so I'm trying to make it about the same length as well, because that's I like the size of that one. I'm using the recommended needle size, even though I'm adding in the mohair, which makes probably a bigger gauge. I haven't measured my gauge, but I assume so. But I'm still using the recommended needle size, which are US 6 4mm needles, and I use all CHAOGU needles. I forgot to mention the socks. I'm using US 1 2.25mm needles, and I'm also making the medium size, which is 64 stitches. Those are also CHAOGU DPNs. So I think that's all for this one. I'm super excited to see how far this is coming, and I'm happy with how it's turning out. In hindsight, I would have put in less pink colors, but I think I'll still be happy with it in the end. And the good thing is, I think I had mentioned last time that I was running low on the little scraps that I could add to my Hexy Scrappy blanket, and since I've taken so many of the scraps that I was going to put in this shawl out of it, because I just had too many scraps, I've been putting them in my scrap basket to add to that Hexy blanket. So now I'm excited that I have a few more scraps to add to that blanket. So that's great. Okay, speaking of scrappy blankets, I have another scrappy blanket to share with you all. This is a blanket that I've been working on using up my worsted weight cotton scraps. And I'm really loving how it's turning out. So last time I showed this, it was 8 by 8 squares. This is the first row I made. So this is where I was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So right here where my hand stops, that's where I was last time. And then I had 8 rows done in the length as well. And now I've got a 10 by 10 square going on. So I was able to add 2 full rows to the side and the bottom. And I really love how it's turning out. I am just doing a really simple granny square for this, so I'm not following a pattern necessarily, but I'll just talk you through what I'm doing just in case you're not familiar with how to make a granny square. So I just start off with a chain 4 and then I connect that with a slip stitch to make a ring. And then in that ring I do 3 double crochet clusters. I chain 2 for each corner and then do another cluster of 3. And I just do that all the way around for each row. So in every corner you have a cluster of 3 double crochets, chain 2 in each corner, and then another cluster of 3 double crochets. And then in all the side ones, well, there's really only one side stitch on the last row, I do just 1 cluster of 3 double crochets. So for this I am using just random scraps for the 2 middle rounds. So as you can see, I change colors for every round. And then for the 3rd round, I am using Lily Sugar and Cream in the Ecru colorway. And I am joining as I go. And I am crocheting over the ends as best as I can. It is a little bit more difficult with this pattern because I'm skipping over the clusters and I'm only slip stitching into the spaces in between the clusters. And so when a yarn is kind of hanging out on this side of a cluster, I have to weave the yarn in and out through this cluster to get it over to this spot so I can crochet over it. So it's not quite as easy as it is with my hexie blanket, but it still works, and that way I don't have to weave in the ends at the end. See, all these ends on this end will be crocheted over eventually. I am using an H hook, which is 5mm. I have a clover hook that I am really enjoying using. I'm almost out of my bare, or my neutral yarn, my Lily Sugar and Cream Ecru, so I had to order some more of that because I do want this to be a throw size for our family to use. I think it'll be really nice to have this 100% cotton blanket to have for, kind of in the summer when the air maybe feels a little chilly. I think it would be great to have this. I was just showing you the wrong side, but it doesn't really matter. The front and the back look similar. There's just a bit of a ridge because of the joining. There's a bit of a ridge. I don't think you can even really see it though on camera. On the right side, there's a bit of a ridge, and on the wrong side, there's not. So the wrong side doesn't really look much different. Anyway, I'm really happy with this. I love how it's coming along. I love the looks of it. I think it's so springy and happy looking. I love it. And I think if I kept working on this, I can see that I could maybe get it done pretty quickly, because with it being worsted weight, it seems to be growing pretty quickly. So I think I want to try to get this done, especially because I want to start another Scrappy blanket, and I made myself a rule that I need to finish at least one of my 5 Scrappy blankets that are in the works before I start another one. So that would be great. All right, my last work in progress is in this beautiful butterfly bag that I received from Trisha of Joy in the Stitches. And I love this bag so much. And I have a new cast on in this bag. I am knitting a new design by MOLLYKLEINDESIGN. It has not yet been released and it is not yet named. So, but it should be released in a couple of weeks, she said. And it is a shawl. And here it is so far. So the construction is neat for this one. You start off with, you cast on these side stitches, and then as I'm knitting, I'm increasing, and it will be a crescent shape, and it will kind of go like this. And I think this lacy pattern will kind of sort of form a V. I am just continuing to increase the stitches so that it is increasing in width here. It is knit using DK weight yarn. I'm using my own hand dyed yarn. I do not dye yarn anymore, but I did dye yarn for this project on a DK weight base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this is just a deep wine color. When I dyed yarn and sold it, this was called my Vineyard colorway. It shows up a bit more red on screen. It has more of a purple undertone, I guess. it's not quite accurate on there. It's too bright. It's too like brick ready on the screen, and really it's more of a deep wine color. I love it though, and I'm so excited to have a shawl that's just in this color. I do have this color in actually 2 other shawls that I've knit, but it's only a part of it, and I'm excited to have this all done in this color. I also have on my Make 9 list, I have planned to make a sweater for myself in this color as well this year, so hopefully I'll get that done as well. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I'm using the recommended needle size, which are US 7, 4.25, or 4.5, I don't know, 4.5 millimeter needles. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's a super simple pattern. It's very easily memorizable. It, yeah, I can, after I did maybe, I don't know, the first few rows, I had it memorized. So it's nice, and you know, I can take it out on the porch and knit on it, and I don't have to worry about the wind blowing the pattern away. I don't have to look at the pattern. So anyway, these stitch markers are just marking every 20 rows, so I can kind of keep track of how many rows I've knit before I'm ready to start decreasing again. So I'm going to increase until the center point, and then I'll start decreasing again. Anyway, I really love the lace pattern on this. It is very simple, but so beautiful, I think. There's a bit of a garter edging here that is folding under right now, but I'm pretty sure it's really folding under. I hope it blocks out okay. I kind of thought maybe I should have done an I-cord edge there instead, but I never think of that until it's too late. There's been a few times when I'm making shawls and I think, oh, I should have done an I-cord edge instead, and then I'm already into it too far to turn back. Hopefully that'll block out though. I'm sure it will. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this. It's such a fun project. It requires, the pattern requires 3 skeins of DK weight yarn, so I dyed them up all together, so I'm not alternating skeins, and hopefully that will work out together. They were all dyed in the same pot together, so they should be fine. So that is it. Those are all of my projects that I have to share with you this week. We've been doing really well. The weather's continued to be really nice, warm, but still beautiful, and we've been able to enjoy being outside a lot, especially in the morning before it gets too hot. I've started letting the kids play for an extra hour in the morning before we start our schoolwork, because I homeschool our kids and we just continue schoolwork throughout the summer. But I've let them play for a little extra in the morning so that they enjoy the cooler weather before it gets a little bit too warm, and then we just do schoolwork for a little bit longer into the afternoon usually. So that's been working out for us. And yeah, no other real news. Nothing else has changed yet. Our church is still closed, and mainly because our church is preparing to move to a new building. So we're excited about that, but because of that, they're getting that new building prepared, and so our church has not reopened yet, but I'm anticipating that it should be opened in the middle of July is their anticipated opening date for that. So other than that, you know, nothing else has changed really. We're doing well. Everybody is healthy and happy. So that is the main thing. I hope you all are doing well, and I wish you the very best until I podcast again. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you would like. I would appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.